Hello, I am Mr. Orange and this is video hashtag 575. In this video, I'll be talking about 16. I think it's episode 12. It's called Mr. Nice Guy. This episode is going to be Wyatt and Jonesy centric episode. This is where Wyatt tries to become sensitive with these girls, and Jonesy doesn't appreciate that. He thinks Wyatt stabbed Jonesy in the back by being sensitive, and Jonesy tries to be sensitive in this episode. Before we get into this video, though, let's like, share, and subscribe. Also, I would like to let you know I'm changing the way I approach my videos when it comes to cartoons. Apart from Scooby-Doo 16 and Winx Club, I'm changing my the way I make my playlists and all that. Instead of going by channels like Nickelodeon or Disney Channel, I'm going to go by date, going by different decades. Yeah. That way I can cover all sorts of cartoons. Anyway, let's get into this video. Anyway, the first part of this episode, we're at Spin This, which is Wyatt's job. We find out what Jonesy's next job is, which is at the staple hut. I imagine they sell staplers. Kind of a niche job, if you ask me. So Jonesy abandons his job because he thinks it's very stressful. We then see Serena walk by, Wyatt's boss. I think I mentioned before how it's inappropriate how Wyatt is into Serena. Like he's 15, and I don't know, Serena's pretty older than him. And Jonesy, fantasizes about him her as well. Yeah. And why is bothered that Serena doesn't, know he exists, even though she's your boss? Why wouldn't she know you exist? Like you're her coworker. Imagine running a store and you're don't know your employees. But Josie does give a good idea. If Wyatt can't, get with Serena, why can't he go with other people instead? I guess if he goes with other girls, that might help him with his confidence. In the next part of the scene, Jonesy and Wyatt meet two girls. Their name is Brittany and the other one is Gina. I like how the girl named Britney puts in a reference to Britney Spears. That I think is a fun thing. I love it when 16 adds in pop references and 2000s references. It's always fun. And it brings back nostalgia to those things back in 2000s. Anyway, Josie and Wyatt plan in having a double date with these two girls. In the next part of the scene, we're at the Lemon. We have Jude, Caitlin, and Jen. They heard about, Wyatt and Josie having a date. And Jude is bummed that he doesn't have a date as either. So he hangs with Caitlin and Jen for tonight. And while they hang out, Jude reads some magazines from Caitlin. I love the tea magazines stuff. It's so 2000s. I miss when tea magazines were a thing. Tea magazines is basically Instagram before Instagram became a thing. Like back then, tea magazines were all the rage. Right now, I don't think a lot of people use these anymore because we have internet. And 16 was made in the 2000s. If this was made in 2010, Kaylin would totally be an Instagram influencer. And I can tell you, she's gonna be in the Instagram girly. She has all the fashion and makeup things. And Jen is kind of skeptical about these teen magazines. To me, I think this is a fun plot in this episode to explore. For the next part of the scene, Jonesy and Wyatt are ready for the double date with Gina and Brittany. I much prefer Wyatt going out with these girls instead of Serena. Like, for one thing, Serena is your boss and she's probably like much older than you, so I don't know if it's legally aged. Also, Brittany and Gina never revealed their age, so you can assume that they are probably like 15 or 16 years old. Hopefully, they are legally aged and Wyatt can go out with them. For the next part of the bit, there's a lot to unpack here. They try to choose a movie for the date, but Jonesy tries to choose a movie that has ninja fights in it. And Wyatt doesn't know if the girls would be into it. And the girls suggest a movie that they would be into. However, Jonesy isn't a fan of those movies. So there's conflict there between the guys and the girls. But Wyatt, tries to choose the movie they were into. And Jonesy suggests some snacks for the girls. He suggests some nachos and cheese. However, I don't think the girls are into those either. Uh, I'm on Jonesy's side for this. The girls seem like they're those healthy types, like health conscious types, because they ask like, are the nachos cheese low carb? I can't stand people like that. Like these kind of characters, like they're like size zero. Why should they care about these diet things? Anyway, they head over to the movies. Jonesy does brag about himself, but I think Gina and Brittany they clue into what Jonesy is about. They list all the jobs that they probably noticed in. I find it interesting the jobs they listed because they also listed the party line, which we all know about. There are also a couple of other jobs they listed that we haven't seen. They mentioned the shoe pit, the denim hole, and belts. I may make a YouTube short out of those. Anyway, Wyatt drops in the fact that Jonesy gets fired a lot. I I'm kind of not happy with Wyatt here. Like I'm on Jonesy's side for this. Why did he need to call Jonesy out like that? Like I understand that you have to be honest with your date and all that, but like you don't have to reveal everything about yourself if you don't want to. And Wyatt is supposed to be a good friend. Why is he not like being supportive? But Jonesy isn't. I can't praise Jonesy either because he is being obnoxious, and he claims things that aren't true. Like he thinks that women can be controlled. Like I feel like that's really sexist and misogynistic way of thinking, and I think he has that like caveman like. He has like old fashioned way of thinking. I don't approve of Jonesy's way of thinking, and that he pushes his beliefs on Wyatt, and that's how he should behave. So I can't root for either of them. Like Wyatt is being disloyal, and Jonesy is being obnoxious. So the Jonesy, Wyatt, Brittany, and Gina, they're at the movies. The first thing the Jonesy brings up is the butter popcorn. And in here, I'm on Jonesy's side for this. And Brittany, says like how, butter popcorn is so bad for you. And I just want to let Brittany like live a life, like. And besides, Jonesy is like skinny and all that. Like, I don't think he should really care about what he eats. He can eat what he likes. Honestly, if my day was this like conscious about food, I don't think I would date that person. I guess Jonesy can eat his own things, and you know Brittany and her friend, they can eat their own things, and that's totally fine. We don't have to judge each other. It's the judging the part that I don't like. But it would be appreciated if Josie had manners because, he is like a slob in the movie, so I can understand, like, being grossed out by him. Anyway, Wyatt drops in some interesting facts about people wearing popcorn. The girls ask him how he knows, and Wyatt says like he probably read it somewhere. So Wyatt comes off like a bookworm kind of type. And Gina and Brittany talk about like how they like a guy who reads. And I found it funny how Jonesy responds to this. Like he's like, oh, he likes a guy who reads as well. Like I thought that was cute and funny. Like, and this makes me wonder why. Like, if just so you know, like I've seen this episode before as a kid, and I know what happens later, like much later in this episode, where like Gina and Brittany thought like they were, homosexual. And I do like this bit where, like, Jonesy's saying that, oh, he likes a guy who reads. That I think that's fun. But I think he was referring to himself, like, he kind of makes up a lie that he, reads and all that. But knowing Jonesy, we know he doesn't read books, and if he does read something, it's probably like a comic book, which is a bad thing. He can read whatever he wants, and it's totally fine. Same thing with the food. I don't think we need to judge people if they read a book or not. Like there are some people who want to read a book, and that's fine, and those are people who don't read a book, and that's fine as well. We don't need to judge people who do things or who don't do things. I do feel like our society like this tends to be a bit snobbery about like people who read books, and like they don't prefer people who don't read books. And in my opinion, like it shouldn't matter if a person doesn't read something. There's many reasons why someone doesn't like to read. It might be because they just personally don't like reading and they prefer something else, like I don't know, a movie or something. There could be like a mental disorder or physical disorder. Maybe they're partially blind or blind, have visual impairment. Or I think some people have like dyslexia or other forms of mental health related. So I think we need to like not judge people for not reading. Anyway, the next part of the scene, Jonesy and the dates, they watched the movie. It appears to be Monk of the Great Dragon. I think that's what it's called. I think that's what Jonesy called it. It's the movie he chose. He does bother Wyatt though, like wrapping his arm around his date. But Josie does interrupt a lot. Like he wonders when the ninja fighting will happen. Mind you, it's a movie he chose, and he doesn't seem to like it. So for this part, I don't think Josie has the right to complain about this. And he gets obnoxious throughout the movie, and he sleeps throughout it. After the movies are over, the dates head out. And Jonesy is still complaining about the movie he chose. And Wyatt explains what the movie is about. It seems to be a Japanese movie that is black and white. I think it's trying to represent like imperialness in Japan. I think it is supposed to represent like most movies from Japan that used to be in black and white. This doesn't make me think of other cartoons that would reference those sort of movies. Like in Total Drama World Tour, in the Japan episode, the teams had to make a move like a advert for some food. And I remember Harold obsessing over this sort of thing. I do find this interesting that these sort of shows will bring this up. I'm wondering if Scooby Doo has done this as well. Maybe they did an episode representing the Japan, especially when it comes to the movies themselves. And I'm sure like Bob's Burger had an episode dedicated to it. Like I think this Japan guy, he had relationship with his daughter, and it was a great episode. Anyway, in this episode, Brittany and Gina are astonished how Wyatt knows a lot about movies. And then Wyatt drops in weird information. Apparently, he had a girlfriend he dated who loved going to movies, and he got dumped by her in this particular movie, this theater, and they haven't dated long apparently. I don't know why it needed to drop that in. It just felt so random. Like no one asked about your previous girlfriends. And shouldn't that be a red flag or something? Like why would you mention your previous girlfriends? Is that not like I don't know? You're still attached to your old girlfriends. And I imagine this isn't Serena because they haven't dated yet. So uh, why must have had other girlfriends before? And hopefully they are around his age because he's 15. If he has had girlfriends before, like he would probably be like 14 or younger or something. I know that I'm saying that he is probably 15 because I know that his birthday episode is coming up. And when Wyatt drops in the fact that he got dumped in this movie, I just find it weird how Brittany and Gina like are awed by this. So it seems like Wyatt is the one who wraps the girls around his finger, unlike Jonesy, who is supposed to be the master of this. I guess that's just irony. Hold on though, like I just saw this right now. He mentioned in the beginning that Serena still hasn't noticed Wyatt yet. Wyatt has a crush on her, and he doesn't know why Serena hasn't uh, catched him out yet. But seriously, how about that episode where he had tickets to Mighty Weasel concert? Didn't Serena, help him out with that? So what does he mean that Serena hasn't noticed him yet? In the next part of the scene, the dates are at Grimy, and Wyatt is still going on about this movie. Seriously, like, he's lucky I'm not his date because I would have dumped him right there. Like, he gets so deep about this movie, and seriously, like, I know the girls were into it, but if it was me, I wouldn't be into it. Like, I'd be like, dude, shut the hell up. This makes me think of one a video from um Wings Club Forever podcast, and it was the episode about shipping Wings Club characters. And I remember, one of the girl you mentioned about how she doesn't like Helia that much because she finds Helia like obnoxious and deep all the time. Um, like not everything is so deep. This is how I feel about Wyatt right now. And in comparison between him and his dates, like he's deep and all that, and his date like Brittany, she isn't so deep. Like Wyatt brings up how like how he relates to the character who's lonely and stuff. And Brittany, like she hasn't been lonely, but she's like, oh, she relates to that. Like I bet in my head, like if I was Brittany, in my head I would find Wyatt annoying. And Jonesy isn't any better. Like he does drop in weird information, like who like a kid would know. Like he didn't know what chopsticks are. I mean, what is this? Timothy goes to school, and I don't like how like Jonesy is being like culturally insensitive about Japan. I don't know. That's how he came across. If it was me, I would be rooting for nobody. Anyway, both Brittany and Gina are like cold, and Wyatt, has an extra coat. I don't know where he got the coat from. Like I haven't seen him walking around with it. He must have got it out of magic thin air. So he wrapped his coat around, Brittany. And Gina, I think, like expected Jonesy to give one to her. Like, no girl, like get your own coat. I guess it's a nice gesture, like Wyatt had a coat for Brittany, but Gina shouldn't expect this from Jonesy. And then the date's over, and Josie's not happy with Wyatt. Honestly, I can understand. Like, I feel, I can understand from Josie's point of view. It did seem like Wyatt, it is taking it a bit drastically. Maybe Wyatt wasn't being intentional, but it just felt like he was bragging a bit in with his dates. It just seemed like Wyatt dropped in deep stuff for no reason. But at the same time, I don't feel bad for Jonesy for this because it was his idea, and he's the one who brought Wyatt along with him. In my opinion, I'm not rooting for any of them. In the next part of the scene, we're at the food court with Caitlin, Jude, Jen, and Nikki. Jude is trying to learn to be more feminine, I guess. I think this is a fun scene. I think they're learning things. They're trying to learn things from teen magazines, and according to Caitlin, these are the magazines for girlhood. And I love how Jan and Nikki, mock her for this, because this is like a ridiculous idea, and I'm on board with them. Like Nikki reads these magazines and doesn't think these tips apply to her. And Jen thanks Nikki for agreeing with her. And as a prize, Jude gets a pina colada for, successfully being a feminine person, I guess. I wonder, isn't pina colada an alcohol? I don't know these things. I don't drink alcohol. However, Jude is like 16. Oh well. In the next part of the scene, Wyatt and Josie come into the food court and they argue with each other about the state. Josie feels like Wyatt, stabbed him in the back. He does feel like, Wyatt overdid it with his dates. I kind of agree with him, but I also think like Josie overreacted. After the argument is over, I think White goes back to his work, and Josie, remains in the lemon, and everyone's wondering what happened. And Josie starts ranting. Jen says that Wyatt really is a nice guy or sensitive guy. Well, I think that might be true. I don't think that's the reason why Gina or Brittany wanted to date Wyatt. I think they wanted to date him because I feel like Wyatt is sort of like, gullible, I think. And I guess, Wyatt is honest. And I guess, they do think that, like, girls like honesty. Or I guess you can say that anyone likes honesty. I guess it really depends on the person who you're, speaking about. However, Jonesy thinks like, girls have edge or something. They like a guy who has edge. I mean, he is talking to the other girls. Like, I think Caitlin, Jen, and Nikki should know what girls like. I don't think he's a decider of what girls like. And also, not all girls are the same. What Brittany and Gina might be different to what Caitlin, Jen, or Nikki might like. I guess you just have to be yourself and find the right person for you. I like this bit though, like where Jonesy goes up to this girl and tries to ask her out, but like he does it his Jonesy way. It was funny how she reacted. And yeah, I think that's probably an issue. Like Jonesy does, get all egotistical and all that with girls. I guess he doesn't respect women as much. So anyway, Caitlin, Jen, and Nikki, and including Jude, they try to help Jonesy try to become more like Wyatt, sensitive and all that. Anyway, the girls try to, change Jonesy, especially Caitlin. She does this by trying to use our team magazine. Basically, all Josie has to do is answer some quizzes in these magazines, and it should probably like test how what sort of guy Jonesy is. I think Jen and Nikki are my favorite part about this bit. They're so funny, like they're making fun of this. Like they give me something to root for. So after taking all these quizzes, it seems like Jonesy didn't score so highly on those. So it seems like, they need to do a lot of work on him. I thought this was funny that like Nikki, revealed his results and she just slips in her own quote. She calls him ugly creep that smells bad. I thought that was funny. So for this to work, Kayla suggests an idea that like one of the girls like has to be like a test guinea pig, like be the fake girlfriend. So like Jonesy can practice being a decent person to a girl. But obviously, Jan and Nikki aren't going to volunteer because why should they? And Caitlin's obviously not gonna, volunteer either. So we then see Jude coming in, and they start turning Jude into Judy. So he becomes the guinea pig. I wonder if it's questionable that like Jude becomes Judy. Let me know what you think in the comments. But Jude is really like a flat character. Like they do like use him in so many situations. Like in Fake Date, he was used for Jazz date, and now he's this. So after all this training, Caitlin tests Jonesy, for his date, and to see what sort of guy he is, testing his sensitivity. So she asks some questions and Josie answers, and apparently to Caitlin those are correct, but I don't think I agree with some of these. The first one I kind of agree with. The first question was, if there's a door and they're opening a door, and Josie is with a date, he should, open the door for them. So that's correct. I think that's a nice thing to do, I guess. The second one I don't agree with. The question was, if they're going to a movie, what movie would they pick? And Jonesy answered, pick the movie with a hot guy in it. In my opinion, if you're going to, watch a movie, you should ask your date what movie they would like. I think that's a better response than what Josie gave. The third question, I also didn't agree with. Kaylin asked, like, if a girl asks if they look fat in this dress, and Josie will be like, no, you know. If Josie thinks the person looks fat in the dress, why should he lie about that? It just feels a bit dishonest. What he should say is like, no matter what the person looks like, they look beautiful no matter what. Or something like, you're perfect just the way you are. That way you're being both honest and being sensitive. So according to them, Jonesy passed his test. So, he tests his, charm on this girl. And this bit was kind of funny. Like he said to the girl, like he read this poem from this book, and he thought she might have some insight because he thinks she's like a poem herself. And I think the girl took offense to that. I don't know if someone told me that I'm a poem, would I be offended by this? In Grimy, Jonesy is back at his date with Gina and Brittany. Wyatt is there as well. And then he brings out his nice guy shtick. He goes on about poetry and he compliments Gina's look. The girls are into this and they're happy with it. And then Jonesy and Wyatt squabble over this. Honestly, I'm not rooting for any of them. I don't understand why Wyatt's mad about this. Like, it's Jonesy's dates too. But Jonesy makes it out like it's a competition. Like, dude, you got one girl each. It doesn't have to be a competition. Anyway, Jonesy and Wyatt help shop for Brittany and Gina at the Cracker Barn. Um, like the girls are totally using these two. Like, let's be real here. However, I am kind of annoyed about this particular part of the scene, mainly towards Wyatt. Like, Josie and Wyatt are obviously are helping their dates. Josie is doing this because, he thinks it's a competition with Wyatt and he's trying to put on a nice guy stick. Wyatt, he has no right to complain. He wanted to have a date with these girls and, he is trying to be the nice guy, air quotes. So he can't complain about, a puppy peeing on him. It's like these characters don't have self-awareness. The next part of the scene I felt uncomfortable with. Like, I'm not sugarcoating it, I did not like the scene whatsoever. Okay, so Wyatt and Jonesy, they're still competing with each other for the affection with the date counterparts with Brittany and Gina. I still don't understand why Wyatt's like going along with this. Like, if he thinks it's not a competition, why is he competing? However, the next part, I also didn't like, Josie asked, Gina, if they can, move to the next level for their relationship, as being, boyfriends and girlfriends. And I guess Gina and Brittany revealed themselves to Jonesy and Wyatt. They've been using Jonesy and Wyatt like pawns. It seems like they led them on. Like, Gina and Brittany, they see Wyatt and Jonesy as friends. So it did seem like Brittany and Gina, their emotion towards them weren't genuine. However, the next part is also something that I just felt uncomfortable with. Brittany states that she thinks that Jonesy and Wyatt, she thinks they are homosexuals. And I have no idea what that has to do with how Jonesy and Wyatt are behaving. Maybe it's a clue, like they're acting like they are homosexuals. Maybe they think they are attracted to each other. Or maybe it's that line that Jonesy said in the movie, like he likes guys who can read. But I don't know how, Brittany made that connection. Is it because, Jonesy and Wyatt are being too sensitive or being too kind? It's bringing back how I think of Friends, like that one scene where Ross is being, pretty homophobic towards, it's their male nanny. And, it's like putting the stereotype that, people who are like especially men who are homosexual, that are seen as sensitive, which isn't something I agree with. Like, I know a lot of people who are homosexuals and aren't sensitive, and there are people who aren't homosexual who are. I don't get this at all. And like, this makes me think like Brittany's and Gina's gaydars are off. If this is what they think, then they shouldn't make. They're really bad at judging others. However, I really hated how Jonesy and Wyatt reacted to this. I feel like Jonesy and Wyatt reacted so negatively towards this, and it really shows that this show really came in 2000s. I don't know how this got tolerated. I would say this for anything, whether it's Friends, 16, or Winx Club. There are moments in Winx Club where I thought like dicey as well. Like I remember, in season 3 where Bisa made a fatphobic joke towards Stella, and in here, Jonesy and Wyatt are like. They're kind of disrespectful. I kind of make a homophobic response to Gina and Brittany's assumptions. And I think Brittany and Gina are also kind of homophobic as well because they made assumption about something that could be not true. And I feel like they use this as an excuse to like get use Jonesy and Wyatt. I think that's what it is. Overall, I'm kind of disappointed about the scene, and if I have to be honest, like if I'm being honest about the whole episode, I didn't have much positive to say about this episode, especially towards like Jonesy and White's whole date thing, and this is like a big chunk of this whole episode. The best moments of this episode I think, is like Caitlin, Jude, Nikki, and Jan. That bit, but that's only like small portion of this episode. It's just a shame. Like out of the 16 episodes, like this is one of the weaker episodes, in my opinion. And now knowing that, now Jonesy and Wyatt know that Gina and Brittany stood them up, used them for the money. They leave the restaurant, and I guess Gina and Brittany they don't have money to pay for these things, so they are left to wash these foods that they had to pay for. Honestly, I think they deserved it for using Wyatt and Josie like that. In the end, Josie gets fired from the stable hut for missing his shift, and this is how the story episode concludes. Honestly, uh, I'm kind of disappointed about this episode. It's rather weak. I didn't realize how negative I was about this episode, but yeah, I have been. And like I said before, there's not many positive things I can find about this episode. The ones that I feel positive is towards like the mini subplot with Caitlin, Jude, Jen, and Nikki when Jude is trying to be more feminine, and Caitlin's training him and all that, and Jen and Nikki they're being fun about it. But it just doesn't help the overall episode. And I feel like the worst part about this episode, I guess, is Jonesy and Wyatt obnoxious behavior. But I guess like my least favorite thing about this episode overall, it has to be the final part of the episode where like Brittany and Gina are thinking that Jonesy and Wyatt are homosexuals, and Jonesy and Wyatt respond really negatively towards it, especially Jonesy like when leaving the restaurant. Anyway, if you like, that's it for my video. If you like this, like, share, subscribe, and have a lovely day.